Oh, look who walked in looking like revenge wrapped in skin. You absolute weapon, you glorious, unstoppable force of nature. Welcome back, or should I say, welcome to the aftermath. Because anyone still watching this, you're not the same person who started this journey. You're the plot twist they never saw coming, the upgrade they couldn't predict, the transformation they don't have the vocabulary to describe. Let's be brutally honest here. They were expecting evolution. Slow, steady, predictable growth. Maybe a new haircut. Maybe some confidence. Maybe a little glow. But what you delivered, what you became, wasn't a glow-up. It was an invasion. A hostile takeover of your own narrative. A complete demolition of every expectation they had filed away in their narrow little minds about who you were supposed to be forever. They watched you struggle. They saw you at your lowest, broken, confused, doubting everything, including your own reflection. And in those moments, in those dark, suffocating chapters of your story, they made a fatal mistake. They documented your pain like it was permanent. They screenshotted your vulnerability like it was your identity. They wrote you off like you were a finished book, a closed case, a cautionary tale they could reference whenever they needed to feel better about their own stagnation. But you were never writing an epilogue. You were planning a resurrection so violent, so complete, so utterly transformative that when you finally emerged, they couldn't even recognize the architecture of your new reality. This wasn't gradual, was it? One day you were surviving, barely holding pieces of yourself together with hope and spite. The next day, you were thriving so loudly that the entire atmosphere changed when you entered a room. It wasn't a journey they could track. It wasn't progress they could measure in increments. It was a detonation, an ambush, a surprise attack on every limiting belief they ever projected onto you. And the most beautiful part, the part that's currently eating them alive from the inside out, is that they missed it. They blinked. They looked away for one season, convinced you'd still be stuck in the same chapter they left you in, and when they looked back, you were unrecognizable, untouchable, unreachable. Let me paint you the picture they're living in right now. They're scrolling, always scrolling, checking your socials with the same energy they use to check on disasters, expecting wreckage, hoping for proof that you're still struggling, still the person they convinced themselves you'd always be. But instead, they find monuments, achievements, confidence that doesn't need captions, a version of you that looks like it was sculpted by trials they'll never understand and victories they'll never taste. And it's breaking something fundamental inside them. Because your glow-up wasn't just aesthetic. It wasn't just external shine. It was structural, psychological, spiritual. You rebuilt yourself from the foundation up, while they were busy building theories about your permanent brokenness. They thought they knew your capacity. They thought they had measured your limits, calculated your potential, determined your ceiling. And based on that arrogant assessment, they placed bets against you. Not out loud, of course. They're too diplomatic for that, too polite, too fake. But in the privacy of their group chats, in the safety of their whispered conversations, in the comfort of their collective delusion, they agreed. You wouldn't make it. You wouldn't heal. You wouldn't rise. You'd stay exactly where pain left you, frozen in trauma, marinating in defeat, serving as living proof that some people just don't have what it takes. Well, how's that prediction aging? How's that narrative holding up? How does it feel to be so catastrophically wrong about someone that your entire worldview has to adjust? See, here's what they fundamentally misunderstood about you. They thought your pain was your prison. They thought your struggles were your identity. They thought the lowest version of you they witnessed was the truest version, the permanent version, the only version that mattered. But pain was never your prison. It was your training ground. Your struggles weren't your identity, they were your curriculum. And that lowest version of you they saw, that wasn't your truth. That was your transformation in progress. That was the cocoon stage. That was the brutal, necessary season where everything old had to die so something unstoppable could be born. And born you were, not gradually, not slowly, not in a way they could track or control or feel comfortable observing. You emerged like an explosion, like a storm that doesn't announce itself until it's already reshaping the landscape. One moment they were watching you crawl through your darkest season, and the next moment you were flying so high they needed binoculars just to see your silhouette. That's not evolution. That's revolution. That's warfare. That's what happens when someone who was underestimated, overlooked, and written off decides to become undeniable. Your glow-up was an ambush because it operated on stealth mode. While they were busy analyzing your old chapters, you were writing new ones in a language they couldn't read. While they were gossiping about your past, you were engineering your future. While they were convinced you'd stay stuck, you were systematically dismantling every obstacle between you and your next level. You didn't announce your healing. You didn't broadcast your growth. You didn't perform your transformation for their entertainment or validation. You moved in silence. You built in private. You leveled up behind closed doors, where their opinions couldn't reach you and their doubts couldn't slow you down. And then, when you were ready, when you were solid, when you were so fundamentally transformed that there was no going back, you simply showed up. And the reveal was devastating. Not because you tried to hurt them, not because you needed revenge, but because your mere existence in this new form was a walking contradiction to every lie they told themselves about you, every judgment they made, every limit they tried to impose, every ceiling they tried to build above your head. Your presence alone shattered their entire framework of understanding. You became proof that they were wrong. And being wrong about you means confronting the possibility that they're wrong about themselves too. Let's talk about what they're feeling right now, shall we? Because this isn't just surprise. This isn't just shock. This is existential crisis disguised as curiosity. They're looking at you and experiencing cognitive dissonance so severe it's physically uncomfortable. The person they pitied is now the person they envy. The story they thought was over is now the story they can't stop reading. The life they wrote off is now the life they secretly wish they had the courage to build. And that creates a very specific kind of torture. The torture of missed opportunities. The torture of wasted time spent judging instead of growing. The torture of realizing they were spectators to greatness, and they spent the whole show rooting against you. Your transformation wasn't gradual because real transformation never is. Real change doesn't happen in comfortable increments. It happens in earthquakes, in breaking points, in moments where you either evolve or dissolve. And you chose evolution with such ferocity that the old version of you didn't just fade away, it was incinerated, completely, permanently, irreversibly. You didn't become a better version of who you were. You became someone entirely new, someone they have no reference point for, someone who operates on frequencies they can't detect and moves with strategies they can't predict. And that's what makes this an ambush. An ambush requires the element of surprise. It requires your enemy to be looking the other way, convinced of their safety, comfortable in their assumptions. And they were so comfortable, weren't they? So sure that you'd stay broken, so confident that your pain would be permanent, so convinced that they had you figured out, categorized, filed away in the box labeled people who didn't make it. But you were never in that box. You were outside of it the entire time, planning, preparing, transforming in dimensions they couldn't see because they were too busy staring at your surface. Now they're scrambling. Now they're rewriting their narratives. Now they're trying to act like they always knew you had potential, like they always believed in you, like they were rooting for you the whole time. But you remember, don't you? You remember the silence when you needed support. You remember the distance when you needed presence. You remember the judgment when you needed grace. You remember who showed up and who disappeared. You remember who celebrated your struggles and who mourned your victories, and that memory is permanent. That clarity is forever. That knowledge is power they can never take back. Your glow-up was warfare because it required strategy. It required discipline. It required you to fight battles no one saw, to overcome obstacles no one acknowledged, to survive nights no one knew about. You didn't just change, you conquered. You conquered doubt, you conquered fear, you conquered the version of yourself that believed their lies. You conquered the voice in your head that echoed their limitations. You conquered the part of you that wanted to stay small just to keep them comfortable. And each conquest, each victory, each transformation was a calculated strike against everything they said you'd never be. They wanted you to glow up on their timeline, slowly, safely, predictably, just enough to be acceptable but not enough to be threatening, just enough to be improved but not enough to be intimidating, just enough to be healed but not enough to be powerful. But you didn't consult their timeline. You didn't ask for their permission. You didn't wait for their approval. You operated on your own clock, in your own way, at your own pace, and when you finally revealed the results, it wasn't a gentle unveiling. It was a declaration of war on every low expectation they ever had. And here's the part that's truly destroying them. Your glow-up doesn't need their validation. It doesn't require their acknowledgement. It exists completely independent of their opinion. You're not glowing up for them. You're not transforming to prove them wrong. You're not rising to show them what they missed. You're doing all of this for you, because you deserve it, because you earned it, because you survived everything they said would destroy you and decided that survival wasn't enough. You wanted victory. You wanted dominance. You wanted to become so undeniably magnificent that even your enemies would have to admit, if only to themselves, that you won. Let me tell you what they see when they look at you now. They see competence where they expected chaos. They see confidence where they predicted insecurity. They see success where they forecasted failure. They see peace where they assumed permanent trauma. They see growth where they guaranteed stagnation. They see power where they promised powerlessness. They see everything they said you'd never have, never be, never achieve. And it's not just confusing to them, it's offensive. Because your transformation implies that they were wrong. And people who build their entire identity on being right, on being superior, on being the ones who can spot weakness from a mile away, they cannot handle being wrong. Your glow-up was an ambush, because ambushes are designed to overwhelm, to shock, to disable the enemy's ability to respond effectively. And that's exactly what happened. They're overwhelmed by how far you've come. They're shocked by how much you've changed. They're disabled in their ability to respond, because everything they prepared, every criticism they had ready, every judgment they wanted to deploy, it's all obsolete now. You're not the person they rehearsed their opinions about. You're someone completely different, someone they have no weapons against, because you're not fighting on their battlefield anymore. You changed the entire game. Now, let's address the narrative they're trying to build right now. They're saying you got lucky. They're saying you had help they didn't have. They're saying timing was on your side. They're saying the universe favored you. They're saying anything, everything, to avoid saying the truth that you were stronger than they gave you credit for, that you were smarter than they assumed, that you had depths they never took the time to explore, that you possessed resilience they couldn't fathom because they've never been tested the way you were tested. They'd rather rewrite reality than admit they underestimated you. They'd rather create fiction than face the fact that you outworked, outthought, and out-transformed every limitation they tried to put on you. But here's what's eating them more than anything else. It's not just that you glowed up. It's how you glowed up. With dignity, without bitterness poisoning your spirit, without revenge consuming your mind, without hatred hardening your heart. You could have become cruel. You could have become cold. You could have let their treatment of you justify treating others badly. But you didn't. You became better instead of bitter. You became powerful instead of poisonous. You became elevated instead of vindictive. And that graceful, dignified, unstoppable rise, that's the ambush they never saw coming. Because they expected you to break. Instead, you became unbreakable. Your transformation wasn't just physical, was it? Sure, you might look different. You might carry yourself differently. You might dress differently, speak differently, move through the world differently. But the real glow-up happened internally. You rewired your mind. You reconstructed your beliefs. You rebuilt your relationship with yourself. You transformed your trauma into wisdom. You converted your pain into power. You alchemied your struggles into strengths. You took everything that was meant to destroy you and used it as raw material to construct the most powerful version of yourself that's ever existed. And that's why this was warfare. War isn't pretty. War isn't comfortable. War requires sacrifice. It requires you to kill parts of yourself that no longer serve you. It requires you to burn bridges to old versions of yourself. It requires you to make choices that hurt in the moment but save you in the long run. You were at war with your own limitations. You were at war with their expectations. You were at war with the voice of doubt. You were at war with the comfort of staying small. And you won every single battle. They're watching you now with mixed emotions. Part fascination, part fear, part envy, part regret. They're fascinated by how you did it, but too proud to ask. They're afraid of what you'll become next, because if you can transform this dramatically once, you can do it again. They're envious of your freedom, your peace, your power, your presence, and they're drowning in regret. Regret for underestimating you, regret for not supporting you, regret for not being part of your story in a meaningful way, regret for choosing judgment over understanding, regret for being spectators when they could have been students. Your glow-up was an ambush because it came from nowhere and everywhere at once. It came from the midnight hours where you cried and prayed and fought invisible battles. It came from the mornings you forced yourself out of bed when staying down felt easier. It came from the decisions you made in private to choose growth over comfort. It came from the conversations you had with yourself where you rewrote limiting beliefs. It came from the courage you summoned to walk away from people and situations that felt familiar but were fundamentally toxic. It accumulated in silence, in darkness, in spaces they couldn't see, until it reached critical mass and exploded into undeniable visibility. Now they want access. Now they want proximity. Now they want to be associated with your success. Now they want to claim they always knew you'd make it. Now they want to rewrite history and pretend they were supportive when you remember the truth of who showed up and who vanished, the truth of who celebrated and who sabotaged, the truth of who believed and who betrayed, and you're under no obligation to let them revise the narrative. You're under no obligation to welcome back people who abandoned you when you needed them most. You're under no obligation to make them comfortable with your transformation. Let's talk about what happens next. Because this ambush, this glow-up, this transformation, it's not the ending, it's the beginning. You didn't rise to this level to plateau. You didn't transform this dramatically to maintain. You didn't become this powerful to stay stagnant. This is just the foundation. This is just the warm-up. This is just the preview of what you're capable of when you stop listening to limits and start living in possibility. They think what they're seeing now is shocking. Wait until they see what you become when you fully step into your potential without apology, without hesitation, without compromise. Your glow-up wasn't gradual, because you're not a gradual person. You're an all-or-nothing force of nature. You're someone who doesn't do anything halfway. When you commit completely. When you transform thoroughly. When you evolve radically. That's not a flaw. That's your superpower. That's what makes you dangerous to people who are comfortable with mediocrity. That's what makes you intimidating to people who are satisfied with incremental change. You operate on a different frequency. You move at a different speed. You play a different game entirely. And the game you're playing now, they don't even have the rule book for. They're trying to compete with strategies that don't apply to your battlefield. They're trying to judge you by standards that don't measure your dimension. They're trying to understand you through frameworks that weren't built to contain your magnitude. You've outgrown their comprehension. You've exceeded their capacity to categorize. You've become something they have no previous experience with. And that's precisely why this feels like an ambush to them. Because you can't prepare for something you can't predict. You can't defend against something you can't see coming. Now, here's your truth. Your glow-up didn't happen to impress them. It didn't happen to prove them wrong. It didn't happen to make them regret losing you. It happened because you made a decision. A decision to stop being a victim of your circumstances and start being the architect of your destiny. A decision to stop accepting the life you were living and start creating the life you deserve. A decision to stop asking for permission and start granting yourself approval. That decision, that singular moment of choosing yourself over their comfort, that was the detonation point. That was the ambush launch. That was the beginning of the end of the old you and the birth of the unstoppable you. They're going to try to take credit. They're going to claim their doubt motivated you. They're going to say their criticism pushed you. They're going to pretend their abandonment made you stronger. Don't let them. Don't give them that power. Don't allow them to rewrite their role in your story from antagonist to accidental catalyst. You did this. You made the choices. You put in the work. You fought the battles. You conquered the demons. You rose when rising felt impossible. This is your victory, your transformation, your ambush. They were just the background noise you had to learn to tune out. And tune them out you did. So completely. So thoroughly, so effectively that they're now screaming into the void, hoping you'll hear them, hoping you'll acknowledge them, hoping you'll give them the attention they once took for granted. But your frequency changed. You're operating on channels they can't access. You're living in realities they can't reach. You're existing in dimensions they can't penetrate. And that distance, that unreachable quality, that's not accidental. That's strategic. That's protective. That's necessary, because where you're going, the energy they carry would only slow you down.